hail and welcome to HomeBhoys.
That's a really bad swerve.
It says comedy, low honk, which I thought suited you pretty well. So.
Literally, Helsinki couldn't cope with the tempo we played.
I'm not mental or anything Wayne's World style, but is there a chance that I can meet you in the future?
But let's not suddenly pretend we're all pals. We're not going to be skipping up the Gorky Road, holding hands with hat stands or nothing.
But do we throw back to the 80s, you know? we're trying to get football back to the 80s.
Aberdeen, Kenny kick a jelly bean. Rangers won a rubber duck, Celtic won the World Cup.
Brilliant.
Wow. Tell me who your favourite player is.
My favourite player is Caddy McCourt.
Yes, Joe, get it right up there. So, let's get down to business.
Big hail, and welcome to the HomeBhoys live phone-in show. I am, of course, Joe McKenna. We're not joined by David Harper again tonight. I'm starting to think he's trying to slowly edge his way away from us. Starting to form some sort of HomeBhoys splinter group. You know, he's got blood. He's got blood in his hands anyway, Jason. We know that. So we are back. It's Monday night as usual after last week's impromptu post-Spartak show. Not an awful lot's happened apart from just football, which is, I suppose, what we're really here for. First things first out of the way. Anybody can call in and join us. We're on Skype. Just search HomeBhoys. That's capital H-O-M-E, capital P-H-O-Y-S. Add us on Skype and call us in. Just interrupt us. We don't really care. Everybody's welcome, and all topics are up for debate. I am, of course, joined by Paul Larkin.
Hello.
And the one and only Jason Higgins.
Evening, folks.
And we are, of course, going to talk about Celtic non-stop. And we're going to have a couple of callers. We've already scheduled a few callers, I think, already. And there's going to be some interesting topics up for debate. That's what I like about this show. Interesting topics come up that nobody else really seems to be covering. And that's our duty. So
that depends how much drinks are drunk in the course of the show.
That's true. Well, see, I'm not drinking tonight. I'm up early in the morning, so I'm not drinking tonight. People will be glad to hear. So, I mean, there'll be a minimal amount of swearing and stammering tonight. So we're going to be able to get through that peacefully. So yesterday, 1-0 against Hearts, top of the league. Samaras again on point. And the New Jersey got an errand as well. I have to say, I found it a wee bit weird not seeing the hoops at Celtic Park. Even though I love that jersey, I found it a wee bit strange watching the game. I wasn't too sure I was up for that. But I don't know. I'll do what I usually do. I'll throw it over to somebody. I'll throw it over to yourself, Paul, to give us your views on the game, seeing as you were actually there.
Thank you, Joe. I was pretty pleased with the performance and the result. I mean, we've played a hell of a lot of football in the last month, and we've really progressed on during that football. So, post-away European trip, I wasn't expecting, grandstand performance or anything like that. But, I thought we've created plenty of chances. Certainly, players who playing on top form, like Commons in particular. I thought that Hearts, were a kind of tough side to break down. They sat deep a lot, they kind of played one man up front, and they only really got sort of anything from us when we were maybe leaving wee gaps here and there. But, it was a wee bit flat at times. You kind of expect that. I know some fans, can't stand that, but you've got to look at it in the context. A great result in Moscow, the travelling, etc. Come back Sunday morning kick-off. You get the 3 points. We're moving right in gear now for the league. The last couple of weeks with 4 points in the Champions League, we're in the qualifying of the League Cup. So, overall, I'm probably as happy as I've been in a right long time with Celtic.
I felt like they looked like a real. I mean, you just mentioned there, looked like we're well geared up for the league. We looked like we were at certain parts of the game yesterday. I thought we were strolling. I didn't think we were, under no pressure, but I thought we just looked a lot more relaxed on the pitch. Some of the. I mean, whether that's because of training, better training plans, or whether that's because of the Champions League experience or whatever. But everybody looked very relaxed, and and they all knew what they were meant to be doing, and everybody was in the right place. And this is going to sound stupid, but unsurprising from me. Whenever we're looking that comfortable, I can tend to switch off sometimes watching the game, because I think I've just been ingrained that much of just constantly waiting for something bad to happen, and they've kind of sort of showed up those problems. But then again, I'm an armchair supporter. What do I see? Jason, yourself.
Yep. I always get sucked in. I always think, this is going to be the one. We're going to have about 6-0 or something like that. But Paul was right. After European performance, especially when you're away in Russia with the highs Tuesday night, you were always going to come down to earth a bit. And to be fair, I thought Hearts actually played pretty well, and they had a case that they might have deserved a draw because they had a couple of cracking chances. The one the boy hit past the post in the first half, I think it was Driver done well, and he robbed. Was it Ambrose done at the line?
Well, I think Fowles would be a better.
Was it? See, that was next to me, Paul, as well. But I had the two. I had Rory and his wee pal with me.
Once I saw it in sports scene, it was as clear a foul as you could. It was. I mean, it's worse for the fact that the linesman standing maybe 5-6 yards for it. But they did switch off.
See another thing. What actually I looked away. See the one in the second half where somebody, who was it, fell. And I didn't know what had happened. Was it Azagiri or son? I turned around, he was in the deck. And what happened there?
The guy literally just walked over to him and pushed him over. It wasn't shown in the highlights either. And everybody just looked at it and thought, well, that's a penalty then. And Craig Thompson just burst out laughing and walked away.
Aye, because it's still a foul in the box. Whether the ball's anywhere near it, he's fouled the guy in the box.
Perfect example of that against, one of the most famous ones instances that was against Hearts when Cascarino punched Craig Levine in the box, and Hertz got a penalty for that. The ball wasn't even in play at the time. I mean, that's a clear penalty, and I didn't think anybody could quite believe when Thompson just walked away, players included.
Well, I was talking to Rory, and I turned back, and we seen him in the deck, and everybody about me was sort of looking away at the time, so nobody really could tell us what happened. So I actually thought the referee was pretty poor all the way through it. I thought he made some terrible decisions, and he's in paper one of the better referees we've got. Mm-hmm. But no, I was happy enough with the win, definitely. The first half, I thought Azagiri was brilliant. I thought Azagiri was up and down that wing, second half. I thought it was really good. I thought Chris Commons was possibly our best player. I thought it was a really polished performance. Obviously, it was a bad head knock between Charlie Mulgrew and their keeper in the first half. And it was nice to see our fans acting like human beings and giving the guy a nice clap going off the park. Yeah. Whereas at Tynecastle, I think the reverse would have been played if it was one of our players going off at Tynecastle. I wouldn't really expect that for them, but that's another thing. And I like to see the Celtic fans rising above what's been on in the past between the two clubs. So it was good to see the guy getting a wee round of applause because it looked a badging for where we were. But thankfully the guy's going to be all right. And then Charlie Mulgrew gets took off for Ledley. He comes on. We were competent throughout the game. We weren't amazing, but we were competent. Samaras could have had another. Done well for the goal, although from the Hearts' perspective, they won't be happy with their goalkeeper, but we've spoken about this off air. And how bad's that goalie there? It's just shocking, isn't it?
The memory you have incoming always is when, after playing for Aston Villa at Birmingham, when the guy threw the ball back to the throne and he missed it completely.
That's right.
And he seems to be so jittery. Hearts fans are saying that to me after the game, so if he's into the next few games, we're screwed here,
He is bad, and we didn't capitalise on it, to be fair. But a couple of roving runs as well. The one Commons put across, Hooper was trying to stay on side, so he couldn't knock it in. And we had various chances throughout the game. Charlie Mulgrew in the first half done well. It was quite a good run for him, and I think he hit it at the goalie or whatever, or did he hit it by?
Aye. At the goalie,
and then there was one wee Forrest slid in at the back post.
Yeah,
he couldn't get in time, and it went past the post. So no, we played well enough with it being absolutely amazing. But then the points on the board after getting away to Russia, and happy days, absolutely delighted. And sorry Paul, but I thought Kai Al when he came on was absolutely brilliant. I thought Biram Kai Al for the last 20 minutes or whatever when he came on, he was absolutely excellent. He was up and down that park. He was making busting runs forward. He was into everything. He's like that's the guy I grew to. I think he was absolutely fantastic player. I know a lot of people sort of lost a bit of faith with him, and I'm possibly one of them, with injuries and stuff like that. So if we can get Kai Al back fit with that type of performance, I don't know if it was to do with Hearts tiring and stuff like that, but nonetheless, I thought Kai Al was excellent. So, no, very good. Lustig done okay again, and yep, but obviously the way we finished the game with Wanyama right back, it was the team that we finished the game with the positions they were playing in the park. You would never have picked it in a million years after the start. But no, happy.
And the one guy I'd single out actually is Kelvin Wilson, because he took an early booking for that challenge that led to the first half's chance, and he never shut a challenge after that, and he must have won every single tackle he went in for. He's such a fantastic reader of the game, because he nullifies the channels for teams, and most teams in the SPL always will try and get the ball down the channel and that kind of thing. And a number of times he's just over there snuffing it out. Just flawless performance for a guy that, 6 months ago he even wanted in the team.
Yeah.
And it's like Kyle, I'd like to think with Kyle that he recognised the fact that we just needed that wee bit of urgency, because we've all been in a million games where you're dominating a team but you're only winning 1-0 and suddenly 15 minutes to go, they're like, well, we can still get a goal here, we've still got a point here. I thought Kyle came on with that determination not to lose that football match. And, it's easy. It's like I've done it myself, as Jason says. When we lost the guy last December, and he basically wrote off the rest of the season for that, so in that basis, it's like you're probably only going to start to see the best of him now, given the kind of time he's been out and stuff like that, and hopefully that's him now started coming back.
Aye, and you make an interesting point there as well, because I don't think enough praise can be heaped on Kelvin Wilson compared to where he was with the vast majority of the fans at the start of the season. Potentially he is our player of the year so far, because of the fact, the standard that he set for himself compared to what we were expecting him. I would have gave him a free transfer in the close season. I just thought the guy was an absolute dud. Why the hell did we get him? And apologies to my big mate Eddie, because Eddie was singing his praises at the start, and I was like, nah, I don't fancy him. And then it was like, I told you so. But I'm delighted to get put in my place, and he's certainly coming up trumps at the minute. And no, more power to him, and delighted for the laddie. Absolutely brilliant.
We've been joined by our captain, Harper.
All right, man.
You there?
Yes.
You weary from your day's work?
Yeah, man, I'm just in the door. I haven't even ate. That's commitment.
There you go.
That is commitment.
I've got a beer, though.
Got a beer?
Fine blood.
That's got a what? Harper, right, well, let you have your say then. What do you want to say about the game? Any standout performances? Nobody's really mentioned Chris Commons yet.
I did.
Did you?
No,
in depth. In depth.
I don't know really what you've covered, because obviously I've not been listening. I thought the first half was a great game. The first half, some chances both ends. Like Hearts made a decent game at the first half. I thought the second half was as good as the first half was. I thought the second half was kind of instantly forgettable. Like just kind of, I don't know. The game just died a death. And I think the biggest concern when a game like that, when it's still 1-0, you start to worry that Hearts will maybe just nip up the other end and nick one. But we seemed safe enough the entire game. I wasn't too worried. I don't know. I kind of took my eye off the game second half because Jason had been doing homework. So I was kind of listening and watching, if you know what I mean. But it was that kind of game in the second half where I kind of, because I had other stuff to do as well, I wasn't exactly glued to it. But no, the first half was absolutely brilliant. Coming back for Europe, it's one of these that it's a hard game. Hearts, it's a hard game for us usually. Like, even although I don't think they've scored at Celtic Park in the last 6 visits or something. But coming back for Europe, especially a long journey for Russia, a lot of the players, majority of the players played in Europe as well. Like, it wasn't like wholesale changes or that. So it's a good performance, another clean sheet for England's number one, and happy days, man.
Do you think that was interesting, Harper, that he actually played virtually the same team minus Scott Brown? You know, I was expecting quite a lot of changes.
Do you know what? I think we kind of kidded ourselves on a wee bit at the start of the season that we would have this kind of not wholesale changes, but there'd be loads of chances for youth and all this and blah blah blah. I think Neil Lennon will pick his strongest team nearly every game. And the fact of the matter is that the strongest team, you've got Miku and Lasad sitting on the bench, and they're easily could be starters. Like, I kind of expected us to line up like that. To be honest, like, you expected Scott Brown to drop out. You can't see him playing 2 games in a week. Like, I mean, he'll probably play for Scotland, which I've not got a problem if he wants to go play with Scotland. We've not got another game until the 20th. Like, I don't see him playing 2 games for Scotland, so. Happy enough for him to play 1 game. It's, for me, I don't really care for Celtic players playing internationals, but it's not for me or you or anybody else to speak for Scott Brown. Like, if the manager feels he can go and play for 1 game for Scotland, then fair enough. But no, I kind of thought that would be the team. I maybe thought Miku would have started the game up front with Hooper, but no, it was pretty much. I think that's pretty much a settled team. Like, there's a lot to be said about consistency and putting the same team on the park. Like, do you know what I mean? Plus, you know that we've not got another game until St Mirren on the 20th, so it wasn't like, well, we've got another game midweek or another game next weekend. Like, the guys are going to get a decent rest. Now they're on their way for international duty and whatever. Like, so it was what it was.
Aye, it's an interesting point, and I don't know about yourself, Paul or Joe, but I'm probably erring with Harper as well, that if you've got your best 11 available, play them.
Yeah.
Start messing about with it when you need to mess about with it, when you've got people that aren't available. Because at the end of the day, you could be resting players and then suddenly they aren't available and you're like, why did I not play them last week? So if the team's available, just play it.
The thing is, Jason, you could easily made, but it's hard to say that was the best team when you've got Leclerc and Kayal and that on the bench anyway. You mean nobody would have any complaints for these guys to come in, because I mean, Ledley he's a first choice pick, if you know what I mean. But the thing is, we're not playing again until the 20th, so it's fair dues. Like,
I think that I agree. I don't think there'll be much tinkering with the team till probably December when the Champions League group stage is finished with. Because I think you're right. I think the more you play, the more you keep up a level of performance, the more the guys keep knowing each other and that stuff, it just all goes well. I think Neil Lennon, after the St Johnstone game, realised that we had to be kind of go on a run, you know, and sort of get the confidence up, and he's managed to achieve that now. And even the fact that we're going to St Mirren in the next game, then we're going to Barcelona, I wouldn't be surprised to see many changes between the St Mirren team and the Barcelona team.
I agree.
You could be right, and I know, because it's. No, maybe no. I don't know. It depends. You're right. Who's fit at the time? I'm a bit undecided here. I'm sort of muttering away to myself, but it's just who's fit at the time. So, maybe you can't pick and choose, and you've got a settled 11. To be honest, I want to see Miku and Lasad. I want to see what they've got, you know, because I'm expecting big things for these guys. Come fill a Liga, and they can't get into the Celtic team playing the Scottish Premier League. But I can understand why Lenny's just putting them in there, because who's he going to drop out? You know, Samaras has been much maligned to me throughout his career with Celtic, but he's worth his weight in gold. He's in Europe anyway. So you can't say we just want you for Champions League games, but you get dropped for the Premier League. I was always had a bit of reservations when he put him up front. When he took Hooper off and put him up front, because he's not going to get you many goals for up there. And saying that, he should have buried that header, the one in the second half, put the header by there, but they're tailor-made for him, and he's connected with brilliant. But it's just one of the things, and I think it's a great problem that Lenny's got. Absolutely brilliant problem, and happy days now. You're right, I don't think I've ever felt as good as a Celtic supporter in my life.
Do you know one thing that's quite good is the same back four getting picked. I know like, last time I was on was when we were in Belfast, I think, and we said chances were running out for Izzy, and since that podcast he's kind of turned it around.
Must have been listening.
He must have been listening. Said, "I'll show the idiots."
Yes, and I like Lustig. I genuinely do like Lustig. I think he's getting better every game. I think he was good. He's been good since then as well. He was excellent in Europe. He was good again at the weekend. So there'll be a wee bit of a problem there for Matthews getting back into the team. Because I tell you, I think Lennon really rates Lustig. He's tried as much as possible to get him in that team, whether it's be centre half, right midfield, right back. He's going to be he's a first pick, I think.
Yeah.
So you look at that back four, and it's not a bad back four when they're playing like that. And Kelvin Wilson has been it's just been a revelation this season, and I hope he can just keep that up. And I think it kind of goes down to the fact that you've got a kind of settled back four, and it just works well for everybody. It works well for the keeper, it works well for the defenders. They start building up partnerships, and I think Charlie McGrew will probably be better as well, playing midfield role as well. So everything's in the garden's rosy.
And the new signings, well, the new contracts,
yes,
so to speak. Good news again for the team.
Yeah, definitely. I'm a huge fan of doing that. I think that straight away it inspires loyalty to the manager. The guy, they've Buster Boss for him. Now he's waiting, done the damage for them, and that's really, really good for the club. You know what I mean? Tying up these young guys, because not only that, it makes them feel first team players. Guys like Forrest, you know, he's a first team player now. He's not a young guy like Tony Watt trying to break through. He's a first team player. It makes them feel like that, and I think it's great unity, because I think we've been saying this on this show for the best part of a year now. There's something about this Celtic team that you can see something good's going to happen there, and I think to get the unit in there now when we've got the finance to do it is a really shrewd move by the manager.
And my mate Johnny Mackay texted me after last week's show. He says, I was listening to his last week. He says, I booked a hotel for London for the 25th of May. So I think we better get in free cancellation, obviously. We're not going to get too carried away.
I hope he's booked one for me being his
family member.
What's this like? Is that where the final is?
Aye,
Wembley.
Is it Wembley? I never knew that.
25th of May. 25th of May. You never know.
How close? Well, this way, I mean,
Get the day off work.
how close are we then, do you think? I mean, if we get one more win, could that possibly guarantee us into the knockout stages?
Well, I think what we've done, Joe, is we've given ourselves a free game in a new camp now. You know, if we'd lost in Moscow, then we would have had to have taken something in the new camp to have any chance. Now we can go there and, you know, we can get it all, and we hope we take something of that kind. But if we didn't, we then go into 3 games, 2 of them are at home, and if we can take 4 points out of them, I would suggest we'll be going into the last 16 of the Champions League.
And the thing is, this team looked like they could probably handle the last 16. I know I'm probably jumping the gun, but I mean, from what we're seeing in terms of the strength and depth and the way they're playing together, I mean, I don't know. See, I hate getting this excited about the team because I've done it before and it's all blew up in our faces. But this just seems like a different animal, Jason, as you would say.
I think they're destined for great things, this team. I really do. But you never know. If anybody watched that Barcelona Real Madrid, I had a dodgy feed because I've got rid of Sky, but I had a dodgy feed watching it and I kept clicking on. But that's like a different sport they two were playing last night. So at times you say to yourself, could we compete with that? I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I think, you know, I'd be one of these people that would be a bit like, Messi and Ronaldo, you know, they're great players, but now they're almost taking football to a different level.
Aye,
I mean, the consistency they show, the amount of goals and assists is just, it's on a different planet. And I don't think we can compete with that. And I'm not one of these guys that's like, let's get the whole Barcelona team injured or that, because, you know, I think Barcelona are a phenomenal football team, but I don't think they're the same team they were maybe 18 months ago. And I think that we have got the players that can play the formation that we have to play over there. That doesn't mean to say it'll work, but at least we've now got the players. We've got great midfield players. We've got the perfect lone striker. We've got another guy who can score goals, and we've got guys who can defend. So, you know, we're going over there. We're not going over there as lambs to the slaughter, that's for sure.
No, and we get her on. You say you've got a free run at it. Nobody's expecting us to do it. I mean, it's 11 against 11. Okay, some are far technical. I mean, great. I think strange things can happen in football. There was the leaders of the Scottish Premier League get knocked to the cup by a third division team the other week. You know, so strange things can happen in football. So
the good thing about the Barcelona game as well, though, it's different playing in the group stage than it is once you go to the knockouts. Like, it'll be a different kettle of fish, a different game altogether. Like, do you know what I mean? No, I think we can just go over there and play a game plan, and it has to be one of them where everybody has to play to their potential. Everything has to click in the right place in the night. But no man, it's happened before, and it can happen again.
Mm-hmm. And I think see knockout stages, they suit us better. Maybe no, I'm not talking about the Champions League because the standard there is. I mean, if we're coming up against somebody, if we hit an Arsenal or a Chelsea or that, and they're on their game, I don't know if we could compete with with the type of guys they've got in their Arsenal. But no,
they're Arsenal and they're Arsenal.
I know, but it's our game with Celtic Park. I think we full to the rafters. With the crowd going tonto, it can do great things for you in this 12th man. There's nobody's got it better than us. But maybe you're biting off more than you can chew. But who knows? Aim for the stars. And certainly Neil Lennon will not give anything up against anybody. These guys primed.
Look, Jason, look at the last time when we took AC Milan to extra time.
I was in the San Siro. I was there. Gravesen, about 8 minutes to go. Gravesen had a chance at the edge of the box. Didn't catch it right. And that was us through.
Aye, that when you look at that, that can be done, man. It can definitely be done, and that was a very good AC Milan team. I was there myself. That was the same night. Fun bar. The boy was going to shoot him in the pub and everything after the game. And that, remember?
All right.
It's 1-2-3. But no, that. So I mean, we can go to these places, and we can. And I know this is a much less a team with far fewer experience than the team that we had under Stratton. But they're still international players. The majority of them. They're getting a feel for it. If they got through to the next round, it's a knockout stage. I mean, you just don't know, man. You just don't know, like.
Yeah.
If you can avoid Real Madrid and Barcelona, if you know what I mean, and maybe there's certain teams in there I think we could go and just say, do you know what, we could have a go at this mob. They've just saying we're going to win it. I know you did when you were pushed last week, but
I'll stand by it.
I know you'll stand by it.
You're right. Your teams like Lyon and stuff like that, who's got a great Champions League pedigree, you could hold your own against a team like that. Celtic be a home and away against somebody like that. We could effectively put them out without a doubt. But
not kidding anybody on. We need to play to kind of out our skins like to do this, but it's not impossible.
No, and you've got 11 young guys that grow together, and they've been growing together for a few years now with a couple of class additions. And at the end of the day, we're just enjoying the ride. No pressure on us. If we get put out, it's only Celtic for Scotland. They'd expect same to the end. They monkeys in that Champions League and the ITV studios and that. None of them give us a hope in hell. And then Borussia Dortmund were playing Man City. They were like, oh, actually, these Germans are quite good. Well, they're champions of the Bundesliga. Their apathy for anything outside England is laughable.
Yeah.
Well, look at the apathy the Man City fans showed till they couldn't even fill the stadium.
And
the champions of England against the champions of Germany, and Dortmund's got a fantastic sport there, and they still can't fill the stadium.
I know. You say to yourself, what is going on? I mean, obviously an economic recession going on, and maybe guys, I don't know what the prices. Do you have any idea what the prices were like, Paul?
They were actually not too bad. They were cheaper than ours, but. It's like I didn't get English teams' philosophy with Europe at all. They dismiss the Europa League as if it's a non-event, and Man City's only in the Champions League for the second time in their history, and all of a sudden it's like, I'm not even bothered going to that. You know what I mean? And as you say, I mean, Dortmund, that I'd actually fear a team like Dortmund more because Dortmund's is a fourth seed, and they're the type of team that can wipe the floor with you, and because they're hungry for it. But we play teams like AC Milan or whatever. They're kind of like, we just need to play. They're not going to pinpoint our players, etc. And we get allowed to play, and we've got talented players there, so we've got a chance of, that's why I'm not that fearful for Barcelona, because Barcelona, they're not going to go out there and be like, right, we need to do this, we need to do that, let's score 6 goals because that's what we need to do. They're want to win the game 2-0 and brush themselves down for the La Liga on the following weekend. So, we can't, we'll go in against anybody. As you say, this learning curve which started, with Sion cheating, it's gone pretty well right now.
Aye. Definitely, absolutely.
Sorry, I'm just looking at something here. I'm trying to keep this going. I'm just trying to look at some
What,
news here.
what are you looking at? What are you looking at? Tell us. Share it with the listeners.
I'm just looking at some. I'm on news. I'm on News Now Celtic. Just looking for some
Something to talk about.
some articles, stuff to fill up some space. You know what I mean?
What about in the news for the past week? Mr. Lennon and Mr. Dermot Desmond with the male bonding, sort of bumming each other up. What do you think of that? I think it's pretty good.
I never read it, but it's nothing that I've not heard Neil Lennon talk about before. He spoke about Dermot Desmond quite a lot, and that he speaks to him on the phone a lot of the time. He went into quite detail at the Q&A a couple of years ago here in Dublin, because obviously being in Ireland, the question of Dermot Desmond and how much he cares and how much he's involved came up.
Remember.
Neil Lennon speaks about it a lot. I think that how much support he gets with Dermot Desmond. I don't know. I never read what was said this week, so I can't really comment what was said.
I mean, look, I've heard this a million times about, people saying Dermot Desmond doesn't give a shit. I mean, that is the biggest looking nonsense I've ever heard. I've met the guy twice, both times in Nepal and New York. I've met his son more times, Brett. Listen, they are absolutely Celtic daft. I mean, they fly up for obscure places in Georgia and all that when they're golfing. They go to New York when they're even playing just to watch Celtic, in the bars and stuff like that. Dermot Desmond knows every single thing going on at that football club, and you can see his involvement through the times. I mean, he was a guy picked up the phone to Neil Lennon and says, you need to calm down a bit. You need to
Lennon
understand.
said this, aye.
And that kind of thing. He was the guy that pulled the trigger on Alan Thompson when he said to, Lennon, it was kind of like, this can't go on, blah, 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 blah. You need to get rid of him if that's what it's going to be like. And he's on the phone to him. I believe he phones him every Monday and Friday to talk about a game and then to preview a game. And, I think it's because he's kind of detached and he isn't there every week, people assume that he doesn't care. I mean, you could level a lot of accusations, you could debate all night about how much money he should put in this and next thing. But Dermot Desmond is 100% Celtic supporter, no doubt about that. Like.
And it was interesting, I thought, that Lenny says every week he does call him to talk about his team selection, but he says he hasn't got any input into it. He says, I'm just sharing my thoughts with him. So I think he's got a bit of and Lenny was quick to say he's no his mate. He says he's my boss. He says, so you need to watch the relationship you've got with your boss. He says, at the end of the day, he's got a business to run. But it was on about how, I think a lot of Celtic fans in these forums and that were going off their nut at Desmond when they get an interview. They mentioned, like, it was sad to see Rangers get relegated, and they were looking in the plain words. Obviously, they weren't relegated; they were liquidated, stuff like that. But what's he meant to say? And I
That's
think
the problem, man.
What he's want to do is want to twist that moustache and go,
well, see with Chuckles is trying to start a war of words and stuff like that. And he's trying to start everything, and it just. Dermot Desmond isn't even in the same stratosphere as him. He's not even taking on board. He's like, I'm not even getting involved in any kind of shenanigans with this clown whatsoever. So he just says, it's bad to see them lose great games and stuff like that. And people should just take it for what it is. But I agree with you. I think Dermot Desmond is essential for Celtic because the money that's involved in football and stuff like that, knowing that you've got a person with financial clout there, that if the sort of proverbial shit did hit the fan and finances were getting a bit ropey, which they have been with Celtic in the past, you've got somebody there that could maybe help you out. You've got a ready-made person there that has got a bit of nous about him, and he knows the ins and outs of the financial markets and how to trade your way out it and things like that. But I think the model Celtic's got at the minute with these, especially with the young kids signing new contracts and stuff like that, we're under no illusions that they will leave us if a big team comes calling, and they'll go with our blessings, but as long as we're getting the spondoolies for them.
But I mean, as Celtic supporters, it really doesn't. The best kind of honour you could have is an Irish billionaire, really, isn't it? Like, you couldn't ask for much better.
Who has a genuine Celtic supporter?
Do you know what I think bothers a lot of people, shareholders anyway? The fact that he doesn't turn up to the AGM every year and stuff like that, because you always hear it every year. And one thing that really, it's one thing that's a bugbear of mine, Dermot Desmond, and I've spoken about it on this show before, you can almost set your watch by him every year, appearing on Radio Clyde, to talk about Celtic going in the EPL. And it's something I just wish he would get away from, talking about with pundits, like, you know what I mean? All right, do it in the background and tasting, but it's sometimes it seems to appear and talk about things that just didn't seem to be that important. when there has been really important things in the past and you've never heard from him. I think that's what kind of bothers fans. But at the same time, you need to be kind of daft not to know that everything Peter Lawwell does is at the beckoning of Dermot Desmond. Like, there's nothing.
And I'm sure that's
if
these accusations were levelled at Dermot Desmond, he would probably tell you off the record that's what I paid Peter Lawwell for.
Oh,
look, this is a guy, 94, took 4 million into the club, underwritten R4 million, 2000 wrote off a soft loan of 20 million quid to fund Martin O'Neill's revolution. Soft loan being there's no interest on it, you pay it back when you feel like it. So I mean, he knows the score. I mean, the one thing I know for a fact that he did, and I got this I heard this for the horse's mouth, when Charlie Nicholas was literally slaughtering Celtic at every opportunity, Dermot Desmond phoned him and asked him what his problem was, and he just basically ended the call by saying, "I'm a very private man. I don't like being slagged like this, so you're either with us or you're against us." And Charlie Nicholas said exactly himself. He said, "I was absolutely petrified in the way that he said, I've never been spoken to like that, but the guy was just like, you're a Celtic legend, but stop slagging us all the time." And Charlie Nicholas has barely opened his mouth about Celtic since. So that's something that, again, just because Dermot Desmond's no Glasgow, that doesn't mean he hasn't got his finger on the pulse. And you can be sure that, as Jason says, that if money is needed again, then he will provide it, or he will provide the guarantee that will assume that we could never go under.
And I think people don't realise, like, when you're operating in our kind of market, we've got a massive fan base, but when we're looking for good players, I mean, would Celtic fans be happy playing like a team of kids every week, and having we're not getting the blue chip signings and things like that yesteryear, but I think everybody's more than happy with the talent that's out in the park at the minute. Mm-hmm. And I think a lot of that has definitely got to do with his vision. And I think Celtic is set up with his vision, because we've got a guy there, Peter Lawwell, and Peter Lawwell is effectively ticking the box with all these objectives that are set by Dermot Desmond. I mean, he's our biggest shareholder. I've got no doubt that he's pulling all the strings there. And if Peter Lawwell wasn't performing to the way he was wanting him to perform, he wouldn't be there. These guys don't become billionaires without being ruthless in a business sense. And Celtic are a business to him, as much as a lot of us maybe wouldn't like to admit that. We think Celtic is more than a club and all this kind of stuff. And to us, it essentially is. It's more than, it's everything to us. It's our life. But to this guy, it is a business. I think we can benefit from it being a business to him. Because he's looking at it maybe in a cold-hearted fashion. Because if you're looking at it with blinkers and you're not wanting to make decisions because your heart's rolling your head and things like that, you're probably going to go one way and it's under. Yeah.
I mean, he's a guy who he buys London City Airport for 10 million and he sells it for 400 million. That's the kind of guys you want running your stuff, shrewd guys like that. I mean, of course, most of these guys are billionaires, they're hard bastards. I mean, that's how they make their money. They're ruthless and they didn't take any prisoners. But I've seen him twice in the parlour in New York and he was as active a supporter as anybody, including his son Brett. I mean, the only kind of slaggings you got is the fact that Brett's probably, not the nicest looking guy in the world, and yet he managed to pull Andrea Corr.
See the thing as well, do you think maybe, see the way Celtic are set up, that the media in Scotland don't find out anything about us until it's happened, with transfer speculation and stuff like that? I mean, there's only one person in Scotland knows what's going on with us, and it's the parrot. We all know that. but apart from the parrot, nobody has got a clue what's going on. And I think that is as a result of Dermot Desmond being where he is at our club. And I don't know, I just think it's like the model that he's sort of set up behind the scenes. I'm maybe overthinking it, but I love that coming up to these transfer deadlines, nobody's got a Scooby-Doo what we're doing. Well,
the chat room is disagreeing. They're shouting bullshit, bollocks, bull.
That's all right.
Just I need someone to call in and tell us why.
Aye.
What's bullshit?
Skype, HomeBhoys, let's hear it. Sorry, Paul, what you going to say?
Well, I was saying that he spoke about it last week, about how they had looked more at things like the sports science and the scouting in the last few years. And that is where we have to be. There's no doubt about it. It's the only chance we have of getting to the top of European football again, because we're never going to outspend anybody, So we're going to have to rear our own. And I'd love to see the Champions League money invested. I mean, of course, there's things that Dermot Desmond's done that are, that people aren't going to agree with. I mean, he didn't agree with anybody with everything, but I think that overall, it's better to have somebody like him on your side than outside the tent pissing in.
Aye, I mean, the thing is, we're no apologists to him. They hear them a bit later on in the show when we're ready to discuss them. We're going to slate Celtic for certain shenanigans.
Aye.
But in this occasion, we're talking about the playing staff. And see the thing as well, this is all driven by results. See, football, it's a results business. And see, because we're in the Champions League and we're sitting top of the league and we've got a decent team in the park, we're all happy. See, if we were sitting fourth in the league, we'd been bombed out, we didn't qualify for the Champions League, we would be in different conversations here. We'd all be each other's throat.
Yeah.
So, Dermot Desmond gets the benefit when the team's winning in the park, and it just goes to show that, see a lot of guys that think we've got the new breed of support, and it's in every football club at the minute, apart from one, obviously, because they are proofs in the pudding, but we've got the new breed of supporter that's the accountant. Everybody knows how financial workings of football clubs work, seemingly, because of Twitter and Facebook and forums and stuff like that, where in actual fact, very few people really do, and very few people really care, because all we really care about is that team in green and white winning trophies and winning football games.
Yep.
And Jason, you make a fair point, because as much as we can get the guns out the holsters for Peter Lawler and that when things we're not happy and things are going bad, you've got to give them they've got to share in the success as well, and they've got to be given their fair dues. You can't just say, "Oh well, it's despite."
Exactly.
Then they're a big part of it. Do you know what I mean?
Listen, see this time last season, people wanted to pull the trigger on Neil Lennon right now.
Yeah, let's go on now.
Somebody's calling in there. Just let him know.
There was people demanding Neil Lennon's head this time last year.
Aye, Paul Tim was one of them.
And that's the thing, and that's why you kind of have to put into context. I mean, as Jesus said, I can't be bothered with the finances or the accounting. I can't be bothered with all that crap because I just want to see Celtic win every week. But and I'd rather have guys that actually know what they're doing all that kind of stuff. But we have a chance. Football's such a short-term game now. There's no many clubs that can look at things. There's so many managers now that look at everything in the short term. We have a chance now to build a long-term dream, and we have to kind of say that we're certainly on track for that right now.
Aye, without a doubt.
I think it's going better than anybody could have expected. I think even Neil Lennon himself was probably looking at his players, looking at his team, and thinking, I didn't think I'd have this level, this quality of player, and this sort of cohesiveness this quickly.
Aye, and I think after the game and the way home on Sunday, Joe, I think it was Radio Scotland. I turned it on and Lenny was getting interviewed. I just caught the tail end of it, but he actually mentioned about how much pressure he put under himself for us to qualify for the Champions League, and that's evident. He looks as if he's got a weight off his shoulder. I better stop. I know there's this guy that's called in. It sounds mental.
Been joined by Paul Lee. Paul, are you there?
Hello.
How you doing?
How you doing?
Where are you, Paul?
I'm 60s for the chat room, by the way. You might have noticed me.
Who?
On Twitter and all that.
Aye.
I met you, Paul, your book launch and the rest of it.
Yes, Paul. How are you doing, Paul?
I'm just following up because I've been threatening to for weeks and weeks. And the Dermot Desmond thing, I think we're blowing a wee bit of smoke up his arse for.
Definitely, aye.
I don't think Dermot Desmond is an ideal kind of icon's probably not the right word, but somebody that we should be happy with. I don't think he's what Fergus McCann envisaged.
All right, tell us your reasons why, mate.
Well, I think it was Fergus McCann and the whole thing in 1994, 95, and we all said that we would have a club that we were all represented and we were all trying to make it as if the old dynasties wouldn't happen again. And I don't think that Dermot Desmond's background influence, he's making all the decisions but doesn't want to speak to others. I don't think that's a good thing.
It's a fair point.
And what respect, meaning you're talking about like fans' forums and fans' representatives and like fans' wishes and things like that?
Everything like that. No, not anything in particular. Everything. I don't think the guy that's making the decisions behind the scenes that we've got the access to, I don't think that's a good thing. I don't think that's what Fergus McCann envisaged.
Well, to be honest with you, Fergus McCann didn't involve him in any decision making. He was ruthless.
Aye, but he was building a club at the time. He said what he was going to do. I'm building this club in 5 years, and I'm going to leave it to use. I'm off.
Yeah, but if you look at the model that Fergus McCann implemented, I think if you've got... I mean, at the end of the day, we're never going to have like a one-man rules the place like the Rotten Mob did that put them under. We've got a collection, we've got a board, so Dermot Desmond's he's got to answer to the board, but I mean, maybe he could spend more time speaking to fans and stuff like that, but I think it's quite good that he's detached and he's just like cold-hearted in the business sense. Let Peter Law be the guy that speaks to the fans, and if he's not doing that right, then fair enough. And I understand there's been a lot of things with the Green Brigade and things, people haven't agreed with stuff, but to be honest with you, mate, I'm pretty happy with stuff they know, but there's some we're going to bring in later on that we're not too happy with. But
Jason, to be honest with you, I'm not really one here. I'm not trying to go to Dermot Desmond's case in a big way or anything like that. I'm just trying to bring in a wee bit of balance.
But you're right.
I think we've got to always question what's happened, always look back and question.
I agree with you 100%. We've got to always question. I think that's our support. We will always question, and we totally believe in democracy, and everybody's got a voice. And Celtic, you know, if somebody's wanting to, as long as they've got valid points to put across, there should always be a forum for them to put it. And that's what this is, mate. You can call me here anytime and put a point across.
But I think the difference between some fans see in Dermot Desmond and Fergus McCann is you're never going to see Dermot Desmond on the steps of Celtic Park talking to the fans about future plans and where the club's going. He's just not that. He's just not that guy, and I suppose that's why he has Peter Lawwell and he has Neil Lennon, and he has everybody else in place.
But my problem is, Joe. He tends to be making the decisions.
Yeah.
So everybody seems to accept he's making decisions.
But the thing is, I mean, I'm glad it's someone like him who we can see is a very successful businessman, doesn't take any shit, and is very careful in who he employs. And he likes. I think what I like about him is he likes to keep the people that he employs very close to him, which he's proven with Neil Lennon in terms of making phone calls to him, right? I don't know if Fergus McCann ever did anything like that before. As far as I was concerned, as far as I'm aware, Fergus McCann did things Fergus McCann's way, and if you didn't like it, well, get off the train. You know what I mean?
See, the big difference we've got here is Fergus McCann had Jock Brown in his hand. We've got Peter Lawwell. Peter Lawwell was like the hand of the king. Do you know what I mean? Peter Lawwell basically speaks for Dermot Desmond, I think, pretty much. And I think Peter Lawwell was pretty approachable. But then you could say then that there's vast majority of your support. No, vast amounts of your support who've no time for Peter Lawwell. So then I suppose then that goes, then at the same time they have no time for Dermot Desmond. I just think at this minute in time, things are going well. The club's on a financial footing. The clubs are in Europe, we're jealous of how our club's run at the minute. So you've got to say, the way our club is just now, especially for a financial background, when you look at clubs, this is all over the world, all over Europe, the team clubs in Italy and Spain and England, and they must look at Celtic, the size of the club we are, and we're starting to reap the benefits for that now. We're only starting to see the benefits of that now. We're starting to kick on with a young team. We're starting to kick on again in Europe. Not saying we're climbing any mountains, but we're slowly going up the way, step by step, all the time. And at the end of the day, I've been a big critic of Dermot Desmond in the past, but when things are going well and when things are how they are just now, I really can't really pick many faults at the minute.
And I think, Paul, see what we are trying to get at here. I don't know if it was well you were trying to call in. What we're trying to get at here, all we are is really just normal football fans, and all we want to do is see Celtic win. And see if Celtic's winning, then we all love. But the thing is, see if Celtic win, we'll all love Dermot Desmond and Peter Lawwell. See when they start getting beat, we all hate them. You know, and it's just dead. It's, you know, all it is is just want to see the team win.
See what Harper was saying there? There's a lot of my mates have got no time for Lawwell at all. Right? There's a lot of my mates think, this is that. But I think he's great. I think he's a great guy. I've met him once or twice, and I've met his brother in the south side and all that, and I've got no problem with Peter Lawwell. Peter Lawwell does a lot behind the scenes for the Celtic support that a lot of people don't know.
I'll tell you what, the thing that Harper, remember that time we went to the Q&A in the City West, and we were there just in the capacity of sort of Lost Boys, sort of, I don't know, roving journalists, right? But like, we weren't walking around going, we're from Lost Boys, but Peter Lawwell came up to us too personally at the end of it and shook our hands, and he knew who we were, like. And we had
It still didn't stop him from lying through his teeth to me, though.
Obviously. I mean, listen, politicking, you know what I mean?
What did they say? You look well, all right, Count.
Graham quite likes him, didn't he?
I think a lot of your regular football fans the world over probably have some sort of problem with their chief executives and people who make the big money. You know what I mean? I just think that's one of those things. But I mean, can't complain about what Dermot Desmond's done and Peter Lawwell's done. I mean, but we're going to get on to what they have done. Wrong in a little minute. We're joined by Snake Plissken. Snake Plissken's coming on the show. Snake!
Hello?
You there, sir?
Oh.
Yeah, how you doing, boys?
Not too bad. What do you want to talk about, sir?
By the way, Snake was the Kofi Annan of last week, wasn't he? He was the voice of reason on here last week.
We don't have...
It was the you, anyway.
Was it me or you, Jason?
I think I was just trying to be nice. Saw that.
What did you want to talk about, Snake?
Just following on for the Dermot Desmond thing. I appreciate where you're all coming from in this, but equally, I got to admit, it did get my back up a wee bit when I heard their comments the day after we'd won in Moscow. You know, I thought that can put a lot of folk in a downer. I know he's just trying to be polite. I mean, on the one hand, he's being polite, but on the other hand, I'd have preferred it if he'd done what Peter Lawwell did and just laughed. Remember? You know?
Aye. I don't know. I just think he's in a bit of position, and he really can't be bothered with that. He just answers it to have an easy life and no cause any hassle. That's what I think. And I think if I was in his position, I would have done the same.
If I was in his position, I'd have laughed. I'd have let stay to him.
To be honest, anybody who's really caring about that, I just think they need other things to care about in their life.
Aye, that's where I was sort of thinking as well. It's just, I think, as we spoke about, people are wanting to be offended.
If that's the only thing you can find to be annoyed about, well, you're doing well.
Aye.
No, but you
See,
know how...
when I was coming on to talk about Dermot Desmond there, I wasn't in any way want to talk about what he said about the Huns the other day there. I wasn't really interested in that.
Aye, it was a general point. I know you're saying, Paul, and I agree with you, Paul. Everybody should always have a viewpoint on it, and I wouldn't have it any other way.
Yeah, exactly.
Definitely.
But listen, I agree with Harper. I don't know anybody's got any interest in Sevco anymore. I mean,
No, I never said that. I've got an interest in them, man. I like to see them in pain and in misery, man. I've still got an interest in them.
did you know the guy who scored the goal against them was a Celtic fan?
Yeah.
The weekend? Just reading
Did you not
that.
see his tweet?
No.
His tweet said, some interview, if you can't beat a team that's dead, you have to chuck it. It's a quote for him. See if you got to Stirling Albion, well, maybe not Stirling Albion Twitter page, but there's a lot of Celtic kind of supporters were retweeting it at the weekend. Pure belter.
I have to say, it's the first time I've ever in my life wanted Stirling Albion to win a game. Like.
There's a picture of your man, and he's standing in a house that he's obviously working in his work clothes. He's a labourer, and he's just standing there, right?
Somebody tweeted as well. The centre half served her a half bun of sausages. That
Where would you get that? You get that nowhere else. Oh, fantastic!
Yeah, that's shambles, isn't it?
Oh, it's brilliant, man.
Oh, fantastic!
And see, people are saying we shouldn't be bothering about it. We shouldn't. Right? Okay, we shouldn't. But you've got to laugh. It's common.
I need to live beside him.
I know, so they are.
We've been joined by Nina Hill.
No, that'll be Sparrow, I bet you.
Who's
Are
this?
you Sparrow?
Aye, how's it going, Jason?
How you doing? This is my good mate Sparrow. I'm getting him to call in.
How you doing,
for the
Sparrow?
listeners-
Hi, Sparrow.
Aye. So Sparrow's one of the European legends. How many games have you missed lately, mate?
About 2 in 10 years, Jason.
2 in 10 years. There you go. And you were at Moscow.
Aye, brilliant, man, brilliant. Just getting over it.
What was it like? Give us a wee lowdown, mate.
We ran a 52-seater for that Cosmos Hotel. Wee boy Dennis and that sorted it out for us, but what a party.
Aye, I seen some of the things on YouTube after it. Somebody was up singing after the game.
Aye, we studied the guitar out and all that. It was bouncing.
Aye, brilliant. Is that one of your best trips?
Oh, aye, definitely. I mean, what a result out there, man.
Amazing, mate. That's 19. And so what was the two that you missed?
Shakhtar and Moscow the last time. No, the Dynamo, the one before, Spartak.
Oh, the one before, the one we drew.
Aye.
Aye, so you were at the one that we won when Savara scored the weren't you? And you've been to Shakhtar as well, haven't you? Because I played there twice.
Aye, I want to go back after the first time.
Aye, tell them what happened, where you watched the game.
In the hotel. An access signs to Big Raj, wasn't it? Big Raj Banjo had one of them, so they were all waiting on the shop.
And any don't know, Big Raj, big Indian guy, he's from Edinburgh originally, but he lives there in Coventry. He never misses one either. That's how Sparrow goes with Raj's travel, don't you?
Raj tours,
Raj tours.
And how long did it take you to get to Moscow?
How long did it take us to get there?
Yes.
Oh, we flew via Zurich to Birmingham. And then an hour in Zurich, and then straight on to Moscow.
And how did the Russians receive the Celtic fans going over?
They were actually brand new out there, to be honest.
Yeah?
No bother at all.
Just swimming, you boys just swimming in vodka, were you?
Oh, it was some crack, so it was.
You were on Sky News, were you know?
Aye, I was in the afternoon. We took a wee Russian boy up to meet the team and that. And there was another wee boy there travelled 2 days with a train to Siberia to come and watch us Celtic.
Was that with Paul Tim was on Sky
Aye,
Sports News?
Paul Tim was Wales, aye.
Aye, wee Paul. We were talking about Celtic fans that went at Lenny Sack last year. He was leading the charge. Aye, mate. So you Barca and Benfica with both of them. I'll obviously be with you in Benfica, you know that. But you got to Barca as well. So tell the guys like Moscow, how much does that cost you in?
What, to go to Moscow?
I know Nina's there. Tell her to get out of the room.
Oh, the visa and that's the only pain in the arse, the visa, getting that, to be honest. But it costs about 400 or anything.
400, that's your hotel and flight?
Aye, more or less. The visa separate. But we were out the Sunday and the Wednesday. So we got out there a day earlier for everybody else, so we managed to get that coach sorted for everybody.
Right.
That was some crack. The coach came up to the game and back.
That seems fairly reasonable, doesn't it? Like,
Aye, it was alright. It's not bad.
I don't know if I ever want to go to... What's Russia like? It seems to me like it's just grey.
It's actually alright out there, by the way. Just to try to crack a smile out of someone else. So.
It's expensive in Moscow.
It was expensive, but we were all just getting a carrier and drinking at a hotel for you. If you wanted to go to the bar and pay £4, that was up to yourself, but rest of the boys just in a car, though.
I've heard it's expensive.
There's a couple of the Irish pubs and that, they were about £4 for a pint and that, but you expect that anyway.
Aye, that's any Irish pub around the world, really, isn't it?
Even in Ireland, they're about a fiver.
Especially Dublin.
Aye, no, brilliant, mate, brilliant. And so what time did you get to your bed after the result?
I was at my bed early, I was at about 3:30 or so. I was fucking mad after a couple of days, but no, some party and I go on the Cosmos.
One of the funny stories we had Sparrow years ago, he was in Helsinki, and tell him you phoned me for Helsinki, didn't you?
At off time, if one of the score was, because tell us we'll get beat by nothing.
He was lying asleep at the back of the stand. He was that drunk when the score was.
Fantastic.
Brilliant, mate, brilliant. So when you next up?
I'm not too sure. I've not looked at the fixtures. I'm up the home game anyway, the Barca game, but league game in between. And obviously off to Barca as well.
Aye. All right, mate.
Listen, we've got a guy coming on now to talk to us about a survey. So, will we cut everybody else off and just bring on Nilly's boys?
Yeah, you get lots of feedback, Joe.
Because I've got too many people on the line, so I'm going to have to hang up on everybody except for Paul, Jason and Harper. Is that cool?
Sparrow, brilliant. Thanks for phoning in, mate.
Thank you, boy.
Cheers, Sparrow. Thanks very much.
Cheers, mate.
Cheers.
Right, I'm going to hang up on you, Snake, as well, mate.
Hey, bother, see you after.
Talk later, mate. Take it easy.
later.
Right, so I'm gonna add in.
I don't think your man had headphones on, Jason.
I
Probably.
think it was because it started echoing there.
Because you could hear his bird laughed when you mentioned her name, so he didn't have headphones, and that's why you'd been getting the feedback.
All right, I'll tell him to phone his mobile next time.
Tell him headphones next time.
Just gonna add in Millie's boys here.
We can get him on to do a section because it's superb. The stories he's got, absolutely brilliant.
All right.
Hello,
Frank.
How are we doing?
Frank. How you doing?
I'm good, thanks, guys. Yourself?
Not too bad. You're here to talk to us about a very serious subject that our bellies are all interested in. You've done a survey on the food at Celtic Park.
Yes. You can call it food, but judging from the responses from some of the people, I think they disagree that it's actually food, but that's just me.
So tell us what drove you to do this for a start?
Well, I've been a season ticket holder at Celtic Park for 8 years. For those of you who don't know, I'm a fairly young guy. I'm in my early 20s, so I'm not quite one of the veterans who've been going for decades and decades.
You look a lot older in your picture.
You're not the first person to say that, actually. No, during the summer, me and my family had balloted for some of these tickets for the Olympics, and we got a couple of football tickets in Glasgow at Hampden, and we got a few down south. So we went to the one at Hampden, and it was, it was great. You get to see Spain and all this, but in terms of the catering, it was an absolute disaster. There were queues longer than I've ever seen at Hampden, including cup finals. There were obviously a lot of foreigners. There were a lot of Japanese supporters who'd obviously followed the team up, and they just couldn't get their head around why it was so bad. That's obviously no criticism on Celtic, but then went down to London, a couple of weeks later for when the Olympics proper had started, and the difference in the service and the quality of the food available was incredible. It was so much more efficient. There was a much larger choice available, and it overall added to the experience a lot. So that kind of got me thinking about it a bit. And I suppose really this shows you how well the club are doing on and off the field with regards to most things when you're getting kind of worried about the food. It's not like there's anything hugely serious that we're all kind of worried about at the minute. So, yeah, my thoughts kind of turned to it, and I thought, I'm going to, I'm surprised nobody's really done this, and I thought, I'm going to see what happens. And I was aiming to get maybe, 1,000 folk to reply within, a week or some starting it, with the aim of sending it into the football club. Since we did a petition a few months back about, potentially having a memorial at Celtic Park for Willie Maley, and that was, there was a lot of respondents for that, and we actually, had quite a good response from the club themselves, because there were so many people, and instead of sending in a letter with just your own personal opinion, and you get a thing back saying thanks very much, it's been noted. If you can send something in with the opinions of 1,000 people or whatever, it holds a bit more weight. So I decided to kind of go about it that way, and within about 72 hours, we had 1,600 responses. So I decided to close it then and begin to kind of collate it and stuff. And I've since published the results, sent them to the club last week. So we'll see what happens.
What was the overriding opinion of? Did you get any categories, or was it just in general? What did they think of the food? Crap or good or what?
Well, I split it out into, I think it was 14 or 15 questions. I purposely didn't publicise my own personal views with regards to the catering on offer beforehand, because I didn't want to be seen as influencing the result in any way. And it was the whole point of it was to keep it as fair as possible and allow people to praise and talk the food and the catering up
if they wanted to, in the same way that they'd every right to criticise it. So it had 15 or whatever, and then above that there was obviously the ability for people to leave individual comments, which a few hundred folk did. So all of them went off to the club as well. But on the whole, it was the results were fairly damning. There were certain aspects where it wasn't quite as bad as I was expected. For example, I was kind of expecting some people to really, really slate the staff because you hear a lot of people moaning about them and stuff. But that was a bit unexpected. About 2/3 of the people I thought were fairly happy with the actual counter staff themselves. There were a lot more people who were unhappy with the management and the people who were meant to be supervising and organising. But when it came to the quality, I think it was something about 70% of respondents really said that they were either unsatisfied or very unsatisfied with the overall quality of the catering, the pricing, all these kind of things. There was a fair majority saying, this just isn't on. And to be honest, having been going to the ground for most weeks for years, I can't really disagree with them.
I filled in the survey the day, one of the first days it came out, but I can't really remember anything about it. I might have been pissed.
I can run through the questions very quickly with you. So the first one was, are you a season ticket holder at Celtic Park? Now, about 3/4 said they were. The reason I asked this is because, obviously, if you're a season ticket holder, not only do you go regularly, but you always go to the same place in the ground. You get to build up an average view of the service available in particular areas, because obviously, depending on where you sit at Celtic Park, you can have access to 2 food stalls, or you can have access to 8, just the way the ground's built. So it was good to kind of get a mixture of people who always went to a particular area and people who would be going to kind of different places throughout a season, when they bought tickets or when, they were going for, like their pals weren't going and they took the ticket or whatever. The next few questions were really just kind of describe the overall kind of quality of the catering available, the quality of the food and the drinks themselves, the quality of the choices available, because that was one thing where a lot of people really did complain, was that in terms of healthy choices, or especially kind of healthy choices for kids and stuff, they're non-existent. Things to do with the overall pricing, that was one where you had about 90% or something saying that they pretty much thought it was either expensive or very, very expensive. Out of 1,600 people, one person said it was very cheap and nobody said it was cheap. So only about 100 or so said they thought it was fair, and above that you had 1,500 people saying it was expensive or absolutely extortionate. It then went on to talk about the staff, kind of how, again, the quality in terms of politeness and competence, whether or not you felt you waited longer than you should have to, describing your average waiting time, describing what you would expect to be a realistic waiting time in a ground of that size, how often they've run out your purchases, how often you miss part of the match because you're stuck in a queue, where people purchase food on match days was quite an interesting one, because it showed, on the grand scheme of things, how few people actually eat inside Celtic Park, whether they're eating at home or whether they're eating off the vans or McDonald's or, the chippy, whatever. So from that point of view, I've got to think the club should be interested, because they're missing out on a potentially huge revenue stream. And yeah, then it was just, kind of stuff with people, more opinions, and then whether or not they felt that the result should be communicated to the football club, where we had 98% saying it was worth sending it in, so it got sent in. Good.
This is a job for the parrot.
see my own point of view, kind of, and obviously I'm not a season ticket holder anymore. I'm not going to many games, but I and obviously I'm only speaking for myself. I don't ever bother too much about stuff like that because I'm usually pissed anyway at the game, so I'm not really that fussed about eating. I get an Alsatian burger on the way in to one of the vans, and then that's me till I don't really leave my seat until I listen want to go for a piss. So, but that's only my personal thing. Like, obviously, it is a big thing, I think, for people, especially the children, because they're probably into the game early, and the kids, kids are like, they want to be eating all the time. They just want to go and buy stuff to the shop for the adventure of going to the shop to get something. They just want stuff all the time. So I can see from that point of view. But my own personal thing is I didn't really bother with things like that. And same with, like, it's just a bit like, when, see, like, the counter stuff and that, I didn't really bother with that either, because it's the same when you go to concerts and that. These are just people that are working for agencies for peanuts, and they just want to be there and just get home as quick as they can. And I can see the point of view that somebody just, they're no full-time staff at Celtic, if you know what I mean. They're just people getting money. Joe, you all right, man? I'm a wee bit worried about you there, son.
Got a cough.
All this talk about bad food sending you on the edge.
It is.
You've been the ambassador. You know what I mean? But no, I think especially the staff sets thing is like it's the same in any football ground, any kind of like even be like an agency like that. You're just going to get people who just minimum base. Well, they're not giving a shit. No.
But should we accept that?
Aye, and I have to say it's nothing like that at any other football ground these days. It's only at Celtic. I mean,
Harper, see when you walk up there and somebody's basically chucking a hot dog and 2 pies at you in Capri Suns, it's coming to 14 quid. And you're like, I'm actually paying for the pleasure of this. And at the end of the day, they're only young kids, but see if they've not got a certain standard, they shouldn't be in the job.
Oh, well, I think I get that anyway. Well, certainly in Ireland, that's what I get at concerts. I go to the O2, I go to any different venues, I go to festivals, and it's the same everywhere, I think. The agency staff, honestly, unless Celtic's going to start employing them, I didn't see that improving anytime soon.
The only food I've had at Celtic Park that I thought was anyway nice was it. Remember the time, Harper, we got those business seats for the Villarreal game. Harper.
Aye, that's right.
And they had pies and stuff and sausage rolls and stuff. That grub was lovely, but that's probably not the grub you're going to get down at the stand, like.
No,
and I think
cold
that's
and stuff like that.
I think one of the issues is that Celtic Hospitality wins the award every year for the best food.
Yeah,
and it's great. It's a fantastic experience in the restaurants. They really are good. And I think that kind of sticks in the craw a lot of fans that you get served up crap, but if you've got money, you'll get great stuff. And it is. I mean, there's been. I heard this story. The Celtic Benfica game where the Benfica fans were a wee bit in the main stand and they were using the same facilities as the Celtic supporters, and a boy went up to the Benfica end to buy a hot dog with a £2 coin, and he could not believe when he seen the price that they were wanting for it with a juice was £7.90. And it's just like, it is. I mean, I've Jason will probably the same, taking kids to games. You do feel obliged to buy your kids stuff, because it's not an easy shift taking a kid to a game, especially a younger one, and you just feel violated by the way you get treated and the crap you get served up when you're paying a fortune for. In fact, I think Liam Power says to me that he went a couple of weeks ago and it was his turn and he paid like 19 quid for 4 teas and 4 hot dogs. And it's just like, come on.
See, absolutely. Jesus
Christ.
Christ.
Just ask you, are you using a headset with a mic?
Yes.
Can you pull the mic away from your mouth a wee bit? You just get your Darth Vader there, man.
Any bit better?
That's a wee bit better. Right. Just your breathing's coming through. It's like you're getting really excited when Paul speaks and that.
I'll just stop breathing.
But it's and I agree with you, Paul. Like, I take the kids, and depending if I'm taking my wee girl and her pal or my son and his pal, I get them something to eat outside the ground, and there's a wee place up the street you can get something far better, because the stuff that you get, I think the choice for hot food is steak pie, a mince pie, a hot dog, a bit of pizza that I don't know how they can call it, pizza, and potato wedges. No, it's no chips, it's potato wedges that are just these limp rubbery things that are freezing. And it's just, you say to yourself, the only facilities they've got in this wee hutch, where I'm in 402 in the North Upper, it's like a wee hutch they've got, and the only facilities they have is a wee like oven thing, where the pies and that are kept like napalm strength hot, or they're freezing, you know, and it's just like there's no middle ground, and it's just disgusting. The food is absolutely disgusting, and it just hasn't evolved for the days of the jungle. All right, you get a hot dog now. The hot dog is a dry bit of bread with this big long hot dog on it. It's just disgusting, and
they've still not worked out how to make food last for the whole game. You know, by half time, it's done.
Yeah,
I took an American Celtic fan 3 years ago, and he said 60 minutes of the game, I'm going to go down and get some tea. I says, you'll not get anything. And he went down, it was all shoved up. Shut up. You've got 50,000 people there.
We haven't evolved, mate. We haven't evolved at all. You know, and they say to yourself, why don't they do a survey with the supporters that are walking in and say, what do you want? Why don't they? I mean, you've done this out of the goodness of your heart, mate, to actually do this survey and provide Celtic with the results. Why the hell are they not doing this? Why are they not finding out what their customers want? Because at the end of the day, they run Celtic like a business. So any business...
Dermot Desmond doesn't care.
No, but I think Celtic certainly overlook things that if they're not being brought up on a regular basis, Celtic will just overlook them, because what does it matter? Nobody's making that much of a big noise about it, so what does it matter to them? You know?
So what do we do? Do we stop buying them? Do we get a concerted approach to actually boycott?
You know what we do, right? What we do? Everybody who sits around, like, you know, the cork boxes in the seats, buys a hot dog and just starts throwing them.
Oh, I was going to say, I just throw all the pies at PLO.
Yeah, because then that way he'll pick one up, eat it, and realise how disgusting it is.
That's actually. Listen, we're only kidding. Don't be throwing anything at PLO, because I don't want that coming back to me and me getting sued or something. Dermot Desmond's in the same country as me, so he could probably get me.
I think you would do a lot better to just, you know, essentially ask somebody like Pierre Law or the directors or whatever and go, right, come down at half time and we'll order you up whatever you fancy. You know, one of you can have a hot dog, one of you can have some pizza, one of you can have a pie, and, you know, see how much we pay for it and tell us whether or not you would pay that for that product and whether you would actually eat it or give it to your kids.
But
and,
what
you know,
is...
if they obviously because, you know, if you're in the executive seats, and that's perfectly fair. If you're in the executive seats and you pay more money, you're obviously going to get perks, one of which is better food, which is fair enough. But I think at times it's easy maybe to forget what is on offer to the average supporter, because, you know, Celtic pride themselves on offering a fantastic match day experience. You know, they've built a tremendous stadium. They have put together, you know, increasingly a very good team. The standard of football and the way we play is generally admired, but, you know, that it can be let down a little bit by something, you know, stupid, and things like food, at least to a decent standard. I mean, nobody's expecting lobster or fillet steak. You know, it has to be. It shouldn't take away from the overall match day experience, which it does at the minute for a lot of people, because it's just not up to scratch.
You wonder how somebody like McDonald's or Burger King aren't they looking into getting into these big stadiums?
That's what I was thinking.
I mean, because you can have a counter, Jason, like how they would have in America. You have your Burger King there, and then you have your Pizza Express or whatever you want to call it there for the people who want that. And you would wonder how these companies aren't going into these big stadiums, because there's a lot of money made there. Like, and obviously Celtic would get their cut, and obviously they would get marked up, because it's the same as when you go to a Burger King or McDonald's or a service station. I think it's an extra £1 or £2 on everything, and that would be the case at Celtic Park. But you're already paying those prices, I think, at the minute. You know what I mean?
The fast food thing actually is quite an interesting point, because I had quite a few people turn round to me and say, you know, why don't you just get McDonald's or Burger King or Greggs or whoever? And but equally, you had a ton of people turn around going, you know, oh no, you know, that's a nightmare. Personally, I think one way forward would be to look to kind of small, fairly local businesses who can bring in staff, even if they take up 2 stalls in the stadium, who are familiar with the food that they serve, who are familiar with working kind of tills and stuff, who work in their own premises normally but can be brought in for a day, spread it throughout the ground. You would obviously have to keep a sort of default stall, because, as I said, there are some places where you've got access to 8 or 10, and other places where you've got access to 2. But one of the things which they really need to do, as well as improving, you need to aim to improve the choice. You need to aim to improve the kind of, at least to a degree, how healthy some of the food is. And you need to improve the efficiency with which it's produced. You can't. We shouldn't stand for example, things like, in a Champions League night, or obviously the old derby games, where there's going to be, it's going to be almost full, if not totally full. There's going to be a huge demand, and yet half an hour before kick-off they've ran out of pies. Things like that. You don't need to be an organisational genius to be able to pre-plan and think, right, look previously at the kind of information stuff you have from tills.
You've got all the trends there. You've got a season ticket base there that come every week, so you know trends in basically in a normal Saturday game, or a Sunday early game, or a Sunday later game, how much you'll sell virtually. You'd have it done to a T. You've got all that data there, and you just need to replicate that.
At the weekend, I went up to one of these stalls 25 minutes before kick-off, and I was just getting a drink, but the guy I was with was getting a burger. They'd ran out, 25 minutes before kick-off, in a day where you had, 45, 50,000 people there. Now, obviously, if by chance one day everybody turns up and they decide, right, today everybody, we're all, just by chance, we're all going to have pizza, you're going to run out of it, because it's a huge spike in demand. But you're not telling me that you can't have people who are kind of clever enough and organised enough to be able to go, right, we know that we generally sell 12,000 pies, say, so we've only got 1,000 in at the moment. Let's not order any more in. You know that you need to order more. They need to be able to. It's not the staff, as you said earlier on. It's not the counter staff who I think are the huge issue, because they are largely agency staff. They work a few hours. It is minimum wage. There's no point in training them for 40 hours to work 4 hours a week. But the staff who actually, the managerial staff, are hopeless. There was a time that, I've seen them before, and somebody, for example, the stall runs out of Capri Suns, and next door, you're standing in the queue of the two stalls together, and you can see to the left-hand side, in the next stall, there is a big, huge pile of boxes full of Capri Suns, and it takes them 15 minutes to realise, right, move some of them over there, or there's only one staff member on that stall, so the queue's a million miles long, but we've got 3 on the other one. It doesn't take a genius to go, right, move it over, or the ability to think on their feet, at least in certain areas, has to be questioned. And me saying this, I'm very aware of the fact that if you walk in somewhere and the service is very good, unless it's absolutely astonishingly good, you'll quickly forget about it, because that's what you expect. You expect it to be decent, and it doesn't make any real impact on your mind. Whereas if you go in somewhere and the service is appalling, it annoys you, you get frustrated, and you're more likely to complain about it and remember, in a few weeks' time, that was terrible. So in that aspect, I think that's part of it. When you get served well, you very quickly forget about it. But I just think there's a lot of fairly simple things that they could do to dramatically improve things like waiting times, at least in the short term, because if you look at products and stuff, I think there will be issues with current contracts they've got signed. I don't think they can, for example, just decide they're going to put out the current catering, like next week. I think that if they were ever going to seriously make any changes, it would have to be, X number of years down the line when it runs out. But that doesn't mean that you shouldn't be improving the consultation process with the fans, getting their opinions, asking what they want, because when it comes to catering, they're nothing more than just customers. Obviously there's a fantastic fan base and they'll follow the team anywhere and stuff, but purely from a catering point of view, they're customers. So you should be providing them as best you can with what they want for a reasonable price, and at the minute, I just don't think they're doing it, and I think the survey actually largely shows that. And I'd be pretty disappointed, to be honest, if we just got a letter back saying, thanks very much, but your comments have been noted and stuff. But I'm hopeful that we'll see a bit more encouraging response from them.
Here's hoping, mate. Here's hoping.
Definitely.
So, did you get a time scale for him to get back to you or anything like that? Or?
Well, the last time I had contact with them about the memorial thing, it took a few weeks. But to be fair to them, that Pierre Lovell actually had us in for a meeting for half an hour about that. So, I have to kind of give him credit there, because it did show that, the chief executive is accessible to, your average fan, which is nice to see, rather than just sort of getting ignored. So I don't know whether it will result in that or anything else, but I'd like to think that they'll at least seriously take on board what's been said. I mean, I don't claim to have all the answers when it comes to this sort of thing. People can offer opinions, people can offer suggestions, but it's going to seriously make an impact. It's going to take a concerted effort, both from the club and from the supporters. But I think that with the right determination, with the right kind of common sense, and with the right approach, we can, we could lead the way in British football. Because stereotypically the food at football matches is generally crap, doesn't mean that it should continue to be crap for another 25 years. We shouldn't be standing here when the club's 150-year-old and still thinking, the team's good and, the stadium's fantastic, but the food's crap.
See a sort of different point as well, mate. Do you think everybody's diets have changed nowadays? I mean, who actually eats mince pies nowadays? Apart from when you're at football.
The first couple of thousand through the gates at Celtic Park, by the sound.
Aye, exactly. But they don't think that people have moved on from mince pies.
I got Vicky to bring me two back from Scotland last weekend.
I know they do these like rubber burgers and like these hot dogs that are just brutal. But do you just need to be like a lard arse if you're a football fan?
Well, see,
because that's what they're effectively telling you.
I've got mates that would never ever eat pies and Bovril, only at the football. Like, you know what I mean?
That's when I eat it. That's the only time I'll eat it. And the only time I ever eat anything at Celtic Park is if I'm starving and it's to fill me up. It's not to enjoy it. It's just to actually get something down your throat because you're going to go for a few pints after the game and you're starving at the time.
See, when you say that though, right, it's funny, Joe, here, right, when I go to draw the games, I'm itching for a pie and a Bovril. You just didn't get pies here, they didn't help them.
No,
they only do burgers and all that, and I'm like, this is actually shit. I want a pie. You know what I mean?
I would never call for them to get rid of the pies and stuff. I'd love to see them improve the quality and stuff. But I think there is, while I think in certain aspects they're maybe a bit outdated, they are associated with the football. It's one of the things you have a pie, you have a Bovril. It doesn't mean that the pie and the Bovril should be terrible. It also doesn't mean that the pie and Bovril should, you shouldn't have to take a loan out on your house to buy them. But I just the club obviously was formed really to feed folk who were starving. Now, obviously, that's that's pretty dramatic. Thankfully, nowadays, albeit that the area the ground's in still isn't exactly the most desirable place in the world, it's folk aren't running about bare feet, and the club isn't having to pay for folk to eat. But you have to keep in mind that we're still in a city which, okay, it's in a developed country and stuff, it's still a very unhealthy city. It's better than it used to be, but it's still pretty terrible. Some of the life expectancy rates in certain areas of the city are scary. And from that point of view, while they shouldn't get rid of pies or burgers, or if you want to eat something that is unhealthy, great. Everybody enjoys it from time to time. You go to McDonald's, you get a chippy, whatever. You get a curry in on a Friday night. It's fantastic. Everybody likes doing it. It's a wee treat. But it doesn't mean that they should be able to just go, right, well, you're coming into the ground, so if you're in the executive bit or whatever, you can have, soup and a sandwich or whatever, and you can have something like that if you fancy, or, obviously there are bits where you get pies included and all this stuff. You shouldn't just have people bringing their kids in and going, well, you've got the choice of something which is dripping with fat or something which is dripping with grease. What do you want? It's not exactly something which you should be encouraging.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Hopefully it'll change. And again, I never really buy anything at the stadium because I just like to stay in my seat. And I hate queues. I hate standing in queues. So I just don't bother anymore.
Well, I mean, I think one thing actually that Hampden did do, which was a good idea, but they didn't quite execute it as well as they could have, was, obviously outside Celtic Park, you'll see you guys standing at programme stalls. What they did inside Hampden for the Olympics was they brought some of the programme stalls inside, and alongside the main stalls, they had these wee things which were selling sweets. Right, that was all they sold. Now, that made no difference to the service at Hampden that day because it was still horrendously bad. If you were just wanting chocolate, it was great, but, if you were wanting anything else, it was useless. If they were to take that idea at Celtic Park and offer, for example, I don't know, water, sweets, crisps, things like that, nothing which requires any real preparation, and put them along the insides of the concourses, it would take a huge amount of the stress off of the main counter staff and off of the queues. Obviously, if you're wanting a pie, you would staff the queue, but if you're just wanting a bag of crisps, you could get it there, and it saves. For every person doing that, it saves, say, 30 seconds, 45 seconds in the queue. It sounds like a really kind of meaningless wee change, but something like that, with a bit of common sense, could make a nice wee difference. It's not going to solve all the problems, but, it could make a 15-minute wait a 10-minute wait, or for somebody else a 5-minute wait, a 2-minute wait. I mean, it's just, again, though, people argue you need to employ more staff and stuff, and that's perfectly fine, but it's wee changes and a bit of consultation would go a long, long way.
Absolutely.
That's right. I think, you're talking about the mortality. I mean, the Carlton in Glasgow's got the lowest rate of mortality in Western civilization. 52 years of age. Certainly could be a leading light in fixing that and trying to change the kind of socialisation that people have to go through, where food becomes no that kind of worried about, just as long as you have some in any kind of kind, and I think we could certainly be doing a hell of a lot more, and we could be a standard bearer in this department because, as is evident for the survey, nobody's happy, are they?
Well, the first line of that survey that we sent in was actually a quote from Celtic's social charter that they released a while back and is available on the website. And, it starts off, and there's a bit of wording before this, but then it says the best that Celtic stands for is supporting, charitable principles of its founder. And then it says the best that Celtic stands for is promoting health and well-being, understanding and positive social integration. And they do great in terms of social integration and stuff. That's fantastic. But, they'll run training courses for, guys at a certain age where they can pay and they can come in and, there's like an instructor and stuff and they work on their fitness, and that's great. But if you're seriously trying to promote health and well-being to your fan base, while obviously things like pies and stuff should still be available if folk want them, you need to provide something a bit more nutritious and a bit more sensible, because if somebody they should at least have the choice.
I'll tell you what we're missing anyway. See, for the early 80s, mind the boys standing outside with the bin bags in the half rolls. And if it was raining, these things were sitting in puddles and they were selling them. The old boy in the jungle got macaroon bars, a chew of chewing gum. Oh my, guys in the jungle piss you in your pockets and all that. Brilliant.
The old hand rolls, eh?
Oh.
That's just it, though. They've come so far. Look at the ground now as in comparison to what it was 30 years ago.
Yeah. Look at the development that's going on at Celtic Park now, and I'll tell you what will happen is somebody like Witherspoons will just come in and knock everybody out the park and build something there when the whole thing gets developed, and they'll make us an absolute fortune in it because there's nowhere else to go.
Precisely. They're continuing to improve things, and that's what they should be doing. But, there's the food is one of the glaring issues which nobody, as you said at the start, nobody's really that worked up about it, that it's worth changing, that it's worth making a big hassle about. And I'd never turn around and say, right, don't buy any of the food and just cut the supply off, or pick up your hot dogs and throw them at someone. But
that was a joke, by the way.
Oh, I know that, but just because we're not kind of all turning up outside the door with pitchforks and torches doesn't mean that it should be totally ignored. It's a good way that you can bring the support on side a bit more, and if they made improvements and they made an effort and the support saw that they were making an effort and things were beginning to improve and change, folk would be pleased. They'd show their appreciation for it, and I think that's something we should strive to do.
We would show up with pitchforks and complain we're just too fat and lazy now.
You've eaten all the patties.
I'm eating pies and rubber burgers. No, yeah, I don't know. So, do you think that they're going to take much notice? I mean, do any of us think they're going to take much notice?
Nah.
No? I actually don't think they will. I don't know. I hope they do. But I mean,
hopefully.
I'd say it's pretty low on the list of priorities.
Well, let us know if they do, Frank. If you get any feedback, phone up again and let us know what Peter Law's the creed.
I mean, as I said earlier on, it's it shows how good football club is doing on a lot of levels that I've even thought of this as an issue with addressing. We could be starting out in the third division and be running around like headless chickens, following another guy leading us up the garden path. So, on the grand scheme of things, we're doing pretty well. I'm hopeful we'll get some sort of positive response, and to be honest, I'm stubborn enough that if we don't, I'll just send it in again and again and again.
The next hunt I meet, I'm going to say, please come back. We're bored. We're talking about pies.
No, definitely, mate. He's a call back in and tell us how you going.
Aye, thanks very much, guys. I really appreciate
that's fine.
No problem, Frank, man. Thanks very much.
All the best, mate.
Take it
best, mate. Cheers.
Bye. Where'd Harper go?
Is he not here?
No, he's disappeared.
He's away for a pie. He'll be back now. I'll text him.
I don't know where he went to.
See why we've got a wee lull. Can I mention something? I got it in one of the Celtic message boards.
Yes.
The Green Brigade are looking at their best ever display to date at the Barca home game. So, as everybody knows, these displays cost a lot of money and they pay for them themselves. So the guys, it's various fundraisers and stuff like that they do. And as I say, these guys put all the time and effort in, and they're absolutely amazing. I think they've worked wonders for Celtic Park. Yeah. So they're looking for donations, if possible. Anything big or small will be more than welcome. And if anybody's looking to donate, you can send it by PayPal to Green Brigade, all one word, at hotmail.co.uk. And I tweeted it earlier on Twitter. So if anybody's get a couple of quid or whatever like that and you're wanting to put into it, personally I think any Celtic fan that should be at that game that night should send the lads money.
Green Brigade, because I'm just going to put it on the chat room. Green Brigade at PayPal.
Green Brigade at hotmail.co.uk.
Okay, at hotmail.co.uk.
Yep. And that's their PayPal address. And as I say, £1, £2, anything. I mean, if everybody in the stadium sent them £1, but you're actually talking about these guys, to put it into perspective, one of the displays they had at Hampden, and it was just a full curve at the Celtic end, that took 15 to 20 of them 8 hours to lay them out when they get the big shamrock crest, the green white stripes with shamrock in the middle. That took them 8 hours, 15 to 20 of them. So if they get this one right for the Barcelona game, it's going to be the full stadium. Jesus. So they're obviously going to have to get more volunteers in to do it. And it's nothing to do with the club. The club let them in, but these guys pay for it themselves. So hopefully everybody can do their wee bit and send the boys some money over. Because I know anything I can do to contribute to them, I always try and give them a couple of quid of that here and there. Because the match time experience, they've increased it tenfold for most of them. And my kid and his mate, they're saying at the weekend, I want to be the top man in the Green Brigade when I grow up.
It'd be quite nice if the club kicked someone in just because I won off for the 125th anniversary.
They don't go to Celtic for anything like that. They
No,
do
I
it
know they
themselves.
don't. I know they don't. But it'd be nice if the club just kicked some money into that account.
Anonymously, aye.
Aye, definitely. I'm sure the boys would appreciate it. But they like to do it themselves. They don't want to be own-MD. So, fair play to them. They've got their own principles and they stick by them. And hopefully, if anybody's got a spare, I know times are hard and stuff like that, but if we're all going along to the Barcelona game, we want it to look the best. And by all accounts, the Barca fans had some amazing display at the start of their game against Real Madrid last night.
That was amazing.
Aye.
I got cut off there.
Pat-
What happened with the pies? Are we getting the pies heated up? I got cut off.
Say aye to a pie.
That's a good slogan.
That is a slogan already. I don't know whether some butcher's got it.
Have you anything else we need to bring up? Harper, is there any shout-outs or any events?
Oh, is that finished?
I don't know. We kind of run out of topics now, haven't we?
Is Jason not going to be announcing his project manager?
Oh, aye. And I've just asked for money for the Green Brigade. So after you gave the Green Brigade money, what we're going to do in HomeBhoys, we're not sure if Mr. Larkin's got a contractual agreement with some barber or something like that. but me, Joe and Harper will be doing it in Movember. So I've set up a site and I'll tweet it and you can hopefully join our team and get as much money as we can for prostate cancer for men, so we can all grow big mousers. And all you guys that say go to beards and stuff like that, you need to shave your beard off because it's moustache.
This is the first beard I've ever grown. That's what it is.
There's and I've sent it out to that motley crew I'm going to Lisbon with. Right, guys, we'll be in Lisbon the 20th of November, so I'm not looking like a prize clown myself. And the emails I get back, I will be looking like a prize clown myself because none of them are up for it.
They'll be up for it. No, I'll be getting on to Liam. Liam is part of the team. He writes blogs for the Lost Boys, so he has to do it.
Well, nah, he's totally adamant that he's not doing it. He must have some sort of rep to protect. I don't know where he gets that from. That daft accent he has in that can try and get rid of that accent he has.
I'll just remove him from the Lost Boys blogs then. He'll have to click either up.
Blackmail is alive and well in the land of Hale Media.
Are you still
alright? It takes me about 2 months to grow anything, so I'll just look the same no matter what.
Are you going to grow the same moustache you had last year, Jason?
Aye, the big handlebar number. Aye.
Oh, definitely. When I seen that, it was UDA killer from the 80s. It was fantastic.
I think it's the best you've ever looked. It'd definitely go well with that perm you used to have anyway.
I like Terry McDermott.
My day's getting into Liverpool though. I'm an adopted Scouser, so I got away with the muzzies.
Oh, we've been joined by Celtic Dreams.
How you doing, mate? How's things?
Not too bad. Are you alright?
Oh, I'm okay, mate.
Where are you?
Do you know, it's just, if you don't mind me asking, just a few points. Last night show, I must admit, I've got to laugh at saying, you were talking about pies, man, and next thing he wanted to go on and boycott the SPL because all their food was crap, which I thought was really funny. A quick question. See, when you were talking about Desmond Dermot, a lot of people were going off their head in the chat room. In my personal opinion, who would you rather have? Des and Peter or other people? Do you know what I mean? I think you've got to give them credit for the way they've run the club.
You're right. Who would you have? Like them two or fucking Sheikh Matajri? You know what I mean?
No, see, at the end of the day, I know a lot of people were saying, it's the club itself, it's the fans that run the club and what have you. But do you know what? We've stuck by our policy, signing players, which I think we've done great, and I think Neil Lennon has come out and says it himself, that they will scout the world and bring in great players. But we are going to end up being a club. Key, for instance, we bought them for about 2 million and we sold them for 6 million. And I think we've got to realise that as fans, if that's the way we're going to end up running a club, I think we've got to do that. Do you know what I mean? I don't know how you feel about that.
But one thing, myself, I always go back to was our Seville year. And we always say if we could have built on that team, we could have maybe conquered the Champions League. If we could have built on that team, we'd have probably put ourselves out of the game.
Yeah.
Because I think in financial terms, we must have been at a breaking point. Then about then, with the wage bill and the And the thing is, like, Porto sell their team for like £100 million. We get about £1 million in for ours, like, in the near sort of future after then. Can you imagine if Celtic had just went and sold all that team? The fans would have been up my arms. But I think nowadays, if we'd done it, we would probably accept it.
I just think, even if you're going back to Seville and what have you, when you look at the team and the wage structure and what have you, we couldn't have. Well, in my personal opinion, if I'm being honest with you, I think Martin O'Neill was a great manager and what have you, but he left a team that it was aged, and I think that's what a lot of people didn't like about Gordon Strachan. He came in and basically had to rebuild a team. That's my personal opinion. But can I
agree with you.
Well, a lot of people didn't like Gordon Strachan when he came in. But if you look at the average age of the Celtic team when he took over, it was what, 29, 30? Do you know what I mean?
He only had one player in that team that fought for him, and it was, well, still in Petrov to a certain extent, but he'd obviously visions of going somewhere else. But Neil Lennon was the only mainstay in Martin O'Neill's team that actually fought for Gordon Strachan. The rest of them threw the rattle at the pram.
Aye, but at the end, well, look at Sutton. As I says, he was great when he was with us and what have you. Gordon Strachan came in and subbed him for one game and he went in a huff. And that was the bottom line. But can I ask you a quick question? What do you think of that international break? Has it came too quick for us, or is we quite happy for it, or what have you?
I think international breaks could work out not bad for Celtic this year with the amount of games that we're playing. I think it kind of like what we touched on at the start. It kind of gave Neil Lennon the opportunity to probably go out with a strong enough team against Hearts because he knew we wouldn't be playing again for another couple of weeks. So as much as it's a bit of a pain in the arse and I can't go back, but it probably doesn't do us any harm with the amount of games that we're going to be playing, especially in the first half of the season.
I think, did you hear the interview with Neil Lennon after the game on Sunday?
Yes.
I did. I heard the one in Radio Scotland.
Aye, that was the one, aye. What he turned around and says about Chris Commons, he was glad he wasn't being picked. Aye. Do you know what I mean? And as I says, Levine, it's up to him. The results will show for him. I don't think he'll be in the job by the end of this campaign, but at the end of the day, he was quite happy that although half of them are going on international breaks, half of them are actually going to get rested. And I think what he says about Sunday was the fact that Celtic came back. When was the last time Celtic actually got 3 points after a Champions League game? Martin O'Neill, if you look at Martin O'Neill's record after Champions Leagues and Gordon Strachan's, it's been very seldom we get 3 points coming after the Champions League.
You're right, mate.
Do you know what I mean? So, as I say, I think at the weekend and Tuesday night, I was buzzing. I think every Hoops fan was buzzing about the fact that we had a great result. And I think it was basically Neil Lennon has grown up as a manager. And I don't mean that in a bad way to him. And he says that himself. It was the experience that came to him. And I think this young team that we've got is going to be excellent for us. I mean, so that's, I thought, lads, I just thought I'd phone in and let ease my points across.
I agree with every word you've said, mate, when you've come through. Fantastic.
I mean, well, thanks very much for having me on, lads.
No problem, mate.
Cheers, man.
Cheers, welcome.
Well,
Cheers, take it easy.
Cheers, mate.
Take it easy. Sorry.
So, just, are we still on, eh?
Yes, I was still on.
Yep. I thought you said went dead there.
No.
We just wrap them up, have we?
I think so. I'm not gonna.
Alright. So just, I don't think there'll be a HomeBhoys phone-in show next week because of the international break.
Yeah,
but we have a couple of HomeBhoys
specials
extras lined up for getting recorded on Sunday. We might as well just say who they are because we mentioned all Mets boys yesterday. We've got first up on Sunday. We've got Danny O'Connor, who's an up-and-coming prospect boxer for Boston. He's a pro. He's full-time. He's a professional boxer. 19 fights. I think he's 18 wins his record. Big Celtic fan. He had a fight there at the weekend there on SNY. It was shown on SNY in America, New York station, Boston. He had the hoops on in the corner after his fight, after the win, and he had the Celtic socks on. But in the ring as he was fighting. So he actually sent us that picture of the HomeBhoys before he went in the ring. So he's obviously a big Celtic fan. He's Irish American. He's back in Texas. He's training full time in Texas now. So he's going to come on Sunday for a wee bit of chat about his boxing career, and obviously I talk about Celtic and all that kind of stuff. And then after that, I'm going to be doing a wee follow up show with Nick Laviglia. About the New York Cosmos and the developments therein. There's been a few things happened since I spoke to him last, and it was something that proved very, very popular amongst the Celtic support. Obviously, there's a big love in New York and everybody. The Cosmos, it's just a thing people are interested in. So I'm going to do a wee follow-up with Nick. He's been speaking to some of the owners of the Cosmos and things that are going to be happening and things that have been announced in between these podcasts. So I'll be recording that on Sunday with Nick.
And I've just had a call come through there on Skype from my mate in the Basque Country. He's sorted his Skype out, so it's come through. So I've texted him there. I'll call him back in 10 minutes, and we'll get a wee recorded show done for the guys. And it's a thing that's close to my heart, and it's the Athletic Club in Bilbao. So we'll get a wee call with him and my mate Chili John, he's got the athletic bug as well. He lived in Bilbao for 3 years, between 1981 and 1983, and Athletic won La Liga 2 years out of those 3. So just a bit of the history of the club and my mate for the Basque Country, and his love for Celtic as well, and how he's been over to see the hoops. And just I think it's a thing all Celtic fans will love. Mm-hmm. Yep, so we'll do that show.
I see the boy who was just on there, Celtic Dreams. I see boys sitting in the chat room, and he should have mentioned it when he was on. I never even thought. Celtic Dreams has his own show here on Spreaker on a Saturday night, so you can check that out.
What's it called?
Okay.
Celtic Dreams.
There you go.
Something like that.
That's pretty handy.
And I'm just having a quick look at the statistics. I was hoping we'd maybe broke through the barrier, but we're still just over 600 short. But it doesn't seem just a couple of weeks ago we were talking about 250,000. We will go through 300,000 plays and downloads tonight, which is quite incredible.
That's crazy, isn't it?
For the whole channel, that is, of course, not just HomeBhoys.
I tell, because I do like some podcasts or workshops in my job, you know. Whenever I mention this show and like how it went from sort of me and you talking to 3 people to now nearly 300,000 people, you know, they're always like, "What, really?" You know, but amazing, fairly hard to take in. We're going to have a good night next month celebrating that army together, I suppose.
Yeah.
Yep. Another one. If it's anything for the last one, I feel a lot more normal this Monday than I did last Monday, I'll tell you.
Oh, me too. I think we all do. I think I kind of had to shake off the rattling. It took me a couple of days. So that's us then, isn't it? So I probably won't speak to you until... I'll probably speak to you, Harper, anyway. Between now and then.
Sunday.
Oh, Sunday, yeah. Jeez. What time's that
at? I think we said 5 o'clock.
5 o'clock. Okay.
He's just recording it.
Aye.
Just recording.
Oh, aye.
Okay. Have to do a bit of homework now.
I've actually got a boy who writes for a boxing website and a magazine, Celtic Boxing. He's on Twitter on Belfast.
How did you find this guy, the boxer, Danny O'Connor?
He started following us first.
Did he?
Aye. So and he's actually he shares management with the Dropkick Murphys, so they're next on my hit list.
I've got
a guy up in Belfast who's he's a boxing fanatic, and I sent him a message asking, and he knew of the boy straight away. So he's going to send me a summary of the boy sometime this week. I'll share bees and that. So.
Speaking of boxers, do you know who'd be great to get on here? Big Rogie, Big Martin Rogan. You know Big Martin Rogan, the Belfast boxer, big guy, he was on Prize Fighter.
Never heard of him.
Ah man, he's brilliant. He's the guy. I'll tell you a story, quick story if everybody's listening. Rogie was invited. He was doing a title fight in the Odyssey in Belfast, and he was invited down to sort of get applause by the crowd. So they brought him to Windsor. And I think it was a Northern Ireland match, you know, everybody's like, "Oh, Rogie," because he's a local boxer, and he pulled the tricolour out of his jacket and just held it up above his head in the middle of the pitch. The police had to escort him out of the place.
Get him on.
He's an absolute lunatic.
Sparrow's just sent me a photo there. It's a beauty. It says Sevco Dating Agency. It's got a big love heart. And it's got two zombies walking towards each other, a man and a woman zombie. And it just says at the bottom, you're dying to try it.
Oh, man.
I'll send you that now.
Fantastic.
Well, I'm actually going to Vivo on Friday night as well. I've got the Republic of Ireland Germany game.
Lovely.
Right.
I'll fill you in on that. I got a ticket for $17.50. It's no bad, eh?
Aye.
That's good, eh?
So there you go.
Well, that's us done, gentlemen. I'm
Okay,
going to bed. Thank you very much once again for joining us. Another fine show. We will see you all in 2 weeks, but there will be a podcast with our sultry tones up on Sunday night with Danny O'Connor. So take care, folks, and hail.
And the Cosmos one will probably be Monday. Joe, remember, put a wee description for this show. Eh?
I will. Right, take it easy.
Cheers,
Okay.
Hail.
On a cold grey morn, on a Glasgow street, a young boy in torn clothing has a ball at his feet. He shouts, "Daddy, I'll play for Celtic, I'm gonna be a superstar." He says, "Go out there and get it, son, show the jungle who you are." "Daddy, I'll be a striker, I'll be deadly round the box. I'll win the treble, conquer Europe, and score the winner at Ibrox." He was a boy, and he'd always wanted to be a boy. He was a boy, and he'd always wanted to be a boy. He goes pushing through the turnstiles with the old man by his side. He hears stories of Brother Walford and the day John Thompson died, of Tully and of Johnson, and of Caesar and Jock Stein. And being captain in the huddle would always be his childhood dream. But time had moved so quickly, and his dreams are way back when. And the old man's seat sits empty. They say he died stopping the 10. He was a boy, and he'd always wanted to be a boy. He was a boy, and he'd always wanted to be a boy. Now his own son stands beside him, and among the sea of green, he shows promise with the football, and he grows to live the dream. Come his granddad's anniversary, he's Captain Derby Day. He issues orders to the huddle, wearing the number of McStay. The crowd, they roar around him as the ball comes to his feet. He drops a shoulder like McCourt, and only the keeper now to beat. He runs to the old jungle, his finger pointed to the skies. He pumps his fist towards an old man, and there's tears in both their eyes. Now he's a boy, 'cause he'd always wanted to be a boy. He was a boy, he always wanted to be a boy. Like Tommy Burns in the big road, he only wanted